and welcome. We're live. Can you be heard, Lambert?
Hello, hello. How you guys doing?
All right. So, this is September 29th, and we are No CB, a Grand Strategy podcast. Today we have myself, Enigmatic Rose, and we have Lord Lambert.
Hello. And that's it. There's just the two of us.
That's it. There isn't any more.
Yeah. Laura's probably fell asleep. Or is chasing horses,
Or
or
he just.
chasing sheep for a different reason. Or, so one of standard Welsh things. Hopefully he'll make an appearance once he's finished with the sheep.
Or he forgot that we're moving the time to earlier.
Yeah, I mean that's also possible. I mean, sure, but that's one version of events that is also possible.
Yes. Though, I mean, I think I checked in with everyone like 4 hours ago?
Yeah, but he didn't respond to that.
That's true. That is very true.
Yeah.
Oh, is Lord Lambert not moving?
I have mastered the ability of standing so incredibly still that I appear invisible to the human eye.
There you go. I thought something was wrong. So, apologies if you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube. It's kind of jury-rigged because I don't have all the everything that Loris and Leanna do.
Yeah.
So, I did this in the last 10 minutes, which is why we're running a few minutes past the hour.
Hey, considering that you did that in moments, it's not looking too bad.
I'm glad to hear that. Alrighty.
Yep.
So first up we have Victoria 3, which I'm sure Lambert has lots to talk about the states.
Yeah. Basically just trying to go over what is the breakup of land in Victoria 3, because I mean every single Paradox game is wildly inconsistent with each other with how it chooses to describe the breakup of land. And well, Victoria 3 is no different in that regard. It's probably the most not convoluted. It's the most complicated of all of them.
So we've got provinces, counties, and then Imperator was what, cities and states?
It was territories and then provinces.
Okay, there we go.
And
what have they done here with Vicky 3?
So the smallest unit of land is kind of it's not got a name. So I'm just going to call it area. Sure, area works. The smallest unit of land is the area where you move troops around, and one or more of these units of area put together makes up a state region. And a state region is something that a country owns in a state. But if you own all of the little pieces of area in the state, it's not a state region anymore. It's just the state. Multiple countries can have pieces of a state, and then they will all be called state regions. And yeah, it's just it's.
This just sounds overly complicated.
It kind of is. But
why can't they just do provinces and then states like EU4?
Because you don't interact with the game on that smallest level like you do in Imperator. You work on the territory level to build things. In EU4 you work on the province level to build things. In CK you can individually build things in, like, upgrade your baronies and your cities and all that. Like, you can individually manage the economies of like those tiniest areas. But in Victoria 3 you don't. You work on the state level, or if you don't own the entire state, you work on the state region level. The pups are tracked on that larger level as well, and instead of being tracked on the individual little micro area level. And I guess it's maybe one way of making the game run smoother if you're not tracking every little individual area and you're only tracking a larger piece, then yeah, that'll be a bit easier for the game to handle. Um, but I do see one potential issue with it, and that is the cultures of different pops. Uh, where where are they? Because if they're only tracked on the state level, what happens when you've got a state that is split between two different cultures? Like, for example, the Rhineland or Wallonia,
Mm,
um, or the absolute clusterfuck, which is called the Balkans.
well,
How are you going to, model where different people live?
and taking that out of Europe and into the US, we have the state of Virginia and West Virginia. They were originally Virginia, both of them, during, when Vicky 3 starts. They
Yeah.
only separated into two different states during the Civil War. When the
Are they
people
on
of
different
West.
sides of the mountain as well?
Basically, the West Virginia is technically like one of the poorest states in the U.S. One of. Uh,
But it does have Mountain Mama.
yes, because it's a lot of mountains. There were a lot of coal mines, but they were very much not southern in terms of culture, like the rest of Virginia.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, coal is mostly used in industry rather than agriculture, so the north was more industrial than the agricultural south, so that definitely makes sense. Um, yeah, it's like how would you like if you've just got the state of Virginia? Is it going to split in half during the Civil War? If the Civil War was entirely scripted, like in Vicky 2, then I'd say yes, but we've already had confirmation that it's not, and it's going to come out as a natural consequence of
Mm-hmm.
the laws and the different the political powers in the South wanting to keep slaves and the North not. So that it's like it's supposed to be natural, but how are you going to then split up Virginia? How are you going to model the difference between the Yankees and Dixies?
Mm-hmm. Well, and you get that in a
Because
lot of states, considering like North Carolina, coastal over here, it's very different coastal than it is for the people that live over here in the mountains. My grandfather's over here. This is where I spent 2 weeks. it's it's very different.
and then also they're like the way that they've said in the dev comments is that obviously every pop can be tied to a place because of their job and
Mm-hmm.
they know where the jobs are. But if I bring it to the Balkans, a lot of the Balkans is incredibly culturally diverse, um, but also it's all kind of the same kind of terrain. There's a lot of hills and a lot of mountains, especially in like southern Balkans,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have very different cultures. The Serbians and the Albanians sharing a very similar kind of terrain. This similar kind of terrain will probably both have the same kinds of buildings. So if you've got a state that has just a ton of coal mines, iron mines, whatever, how are you going to then say, okay, well, only the Albanians should be in this coal mine because we track this coal mine to be in this area, but then the Serbians have to be in this coal mine because that we track this as being in the northern area. It's like it's just so. I don't think they're really thinking it through with regards to cultures.
No.
Um,
Cultures, and then when you move on from cultures, even like political groups.
yeah,
Um, you know, I'm just gonna go back here to the States since, that's where I'm from. Let's look at New York. New York City is very different. Even if you take like the fact that, culture wise, everyone here in New York is American pretty much. I mean, there's immigrants, but all the immigrants tend to be in New York City proper, and they were in the 1800s too. Upstate, this is rural. This is farmlands and orchards, maple syrup, cattle. It's people have very different priorities in terms of voting than people down in the city.
yeah. I mean, as as somebody not from the States, the thing that I've heard about it is the culture is definitely less about whereabouts in the States you are and more akin to, are you in a city or are you in the
Yeah.
rural area?
Urban versus rural. And even urban, you have urban versus suburban. So there's kind of three, because suburban, they can usually fall on either side of the urban or rural fence, depending on background and jobs. But yeah, it's it's very different. And
Yeah.
in the 1800s, it wasn't quite that different, but even then it was different. It's always been different in cultures around the world for thousands of years. The people in the cities have different priorities than the people out in the country.
Yeah. Like for England, for example, we'll have, I mean, with the breakup of the states in Britain, we're going to have things like, you know, Wales is going to get its own, so that's not going to be a problem because they're all Welsh, they're all the same, whatever. But even then, North Wales and South Wales are very different. South Wales is a lot more industrial. Northern
Mm-hmm.
Wales is a lot more rural.
So you would
Are you
hope that
gonna
Wales would
be
be
able to
two
track
states,
that?
at least.
I'm pretty sure we got an image of Britain mixed up in all the states in the previous Dev Diary. Let me go and have a look for that, because I'm pretty sure we got that. Not in
Oh
the
yeah, here we go.
slavery
The
Dev
Yukon
Diary.
Territory. That's fun.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the slavery Dev Diary. Was it political movements? No, it was infrastructure. Which was actually a fair few Dev Diaries ago.
Oh, and Macasio said the evolutions of region names send follow historical penitence, maybe? I'm not sure I understand that.
I don't know what historical penitence is, if I'm being honest. I thought penitence was like, I'm sorry, church, for being so evil. Here, take my money.
Alright, let me do...
I'm not wrong. Oh, you know what? It wasn't in a Dev Diary. It was in the images from the latest video that they did, the monthly update.
Oh, well, if you send a link.
Yeah, I've got it here. And yeah, we have only a single state for Wales. So again, it's interesting. It's weird as well. If you're looking at Ireland, how are you going to model the difference between the Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland? Because for one, that's not the breakup of Northern Ireland, which I'm sure that's totally possible to split that up into historical borders because you've got state regions. But how are you going to model the differences between the Catholics and the Protestants in Northern Ireland when you don't track pops other than where their jobs are? I just don't understand how they're going to do it if they don't track it other than through jobs.
Oh yeah, Wales is all of one. That doesn't seem right. I've never been to Wales, and that doesn't seem right.
I mean, you'll have the different urban centres. You'll have, you know, Cardiff and such, and you can probably track, you know, Wales will, as a state, will probably have a thing for when you have an urban centre, they're more likely to be in the south than the north. So that's probably going to be all right, but I don't know. It's just a bit awkward in regards to pops.
Oh, and Macasio meant precedence.
Precedents. Oh, historical precedents. Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean you could, but that's again like a little bit scripted, right? For the Americas, a lot of the trucks that go past Rose's window do that because of a certain no. For Americas, there's a lot of immigration going there, and the immigration goes there. It doesn't just happen for no reason. People were leaving Europe for very specific reasons. There's a lot of Irish going to the Americas because of the famine. There's a lot of Germans going there because of the bit of religious persecution, and also there is more
freedoms. Well,
freedoms
Germany
for
was
making farms. Yeah.
well, and Germany was having some population problems, and so to get married in a lot of states of Germany, you had to ask the local prince to be allowed to get married. And if he said no, people were quite often willing to run off to a place they could get married.
Yeah.
Even if it meant crossing the world.
But if you imagine, if you are in control of Prussia and you make it so that people don't want to emigrate to the USA, you've changed the historical landscape of the cultures moving to the USA. So you can't do it on historical precedents either because you've changed the history.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do it on that front either. It's just, they might have some, fucking big brain solution to the issues that I'm bringing up. I don't see it, but I'm not big brain, so.
And later on, when they built the Transcontinental Railroad, from the east over, they used a lot of European immigrants or Americans who've been born in, people who've been born in America, maybe were like first generation. But from the west building over, they imported a whole lot of Chinese workers.
Yep.
They treated them terribly, which, is kind of true of a lot of history.
Group A treated Group B terribly. A historical analysis of all human history.
Yeah.
On the subject of the imported Chinese workers, people really should watch the TV show Warriors. It's not really about that, other than having that as the historical backdrop and but it's really good. It's really good, and the main character is like it starts off with him coming to America as one of the immigrants to work on railroads and such.
What's really interesting,
it's really good.
You've never read any James Michener books. His Chesapeake Bay, Texas, and Hawaii are all pretty good. Hawaii has some questionable bits now that more is emerging, but he still mentions quite a few of the questionable bits and calls them on it, so that's a toss-up. But Texas and Chesapeake Bay are pretty good.
Dogbeer there saying in chat, didn't they say that U.S. Civil War could be avoided? Yes. If you manage to sort out the political differences between the
North and South,
or not really North and South, but more the wealthy slave owner class, the aristocrats and such. If you manage to appease them and still get rid of slavery at the same time, then you probably won't have a civil war, right? It's going to be very, very difficult, of course, but then if you've done that, what is then the cultural makeup of the USA? And are you going to have the case where former slaves traveled en masse into the North? Who knows? It's so difficult to say.
The Civil War did other things too, such as the fact that they had so many soldiers left over that a lot of them got shipped west and ended up, fighting Native Americans. Because they had so many soldiers.
What if, as the Americans, you managed to convince the North to be a pro-slavery? And as a pro-slavery country, you're quite happy to take more of Mexico. Because that is one of the main reasons more of Mexico wasn't taken in that war, is because the North didn't want more land because they knew it was going to be slave states.
Yep.
If you've now got a North that is quite happy with more slave states, the cultural makeup of Mexico is now different. Historical precedents can't be used as a crutch in that case, and I don't think it should be either. It's just I really don't know how they're going to do it.
And here's something that we get to you see it a bit with Hoi 4, but Hoi 4, they focus all on the war, so it's not so much. Vicky 3 focuses on social and economic. And thing is, as we discussed in a previous video, for some of us, our great-grandparents lived in those times, or were born or remember parts of it.
All of our ancestors were born in those times or lived in those times. It's kind of how ancestry works.
Yeah, well, recent ancestors, but my grandfather turned 83 yesterday. He was born in 1938. he remembers his first memories were during World War II. Like, he remembers having no new toys and getting old toys from, like, the 20s from neighbors because there were no new toys for kids. But he also remembers growing up and people talking about having no phones in the house. There certainly were no televisions in the 40s. And, you know, that 53 goes up to that. Like, he did genealogy back in the 50s, and he sat down and he talked to people whose parents had owned slaves. Because family from the South. It's kind of mind-boggling when you think about how close that is in time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, a lot of the ramifications of decisions you will be able to make in the game are still impacting today.
Mm-hmm. Dogberry's saying in chat that his grandmother, who's 96 and still alive, has told some amazing stories about the Great Depression in Deep East Texas. Yeah? My stepmom talks some about her grandparents and how they never threw anything away. Cans, no. If they were eating artichokes or Brussels sprouts, they ate every piece, even pieces that we would typically cut off because they're not as tender or tasty. Like,
so all of the sprout.
Yeah. You did not. Well, the stem bits, a lot of people, they cut it off because it doesn't get as flaky when you toast it in the oven or whatever. But, yeah. Yeah, before the internet and cell phones. I'm 33. I remember seeing a rotary phone at my grandparents' house as a kid.
I mean, I'm 30, so I mean, I remember not having internet in our house, and I remember the change to dial-up.
Oh yeah.
And then the first time we got broadband was like mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think I was 6 years old when we first got into the house because I remember doing an email thing to class or something. But my parents were very much techies. I mean, my dad still is.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, like, there's still people alive today who were alive in the period where, you know, Victoria 3 takes place.
Well, and we're talking about, yeah.
There's actual people. So being able to model actual people and where those actual people actually lived, I think, is a bit of an important thing, and they shouldn't just be tied to a place because of their job.
Yeah, there's a U.S. president who still has grandchildren still alive. So John Tyler, kind of a forgettable president, except for the fact that one of his grandsons is still alive. He was in office from... No, that's not it. Where was he president? That's not correct. He was that's not the right president. Maybe it was. Oh,
wasn't it like Washington? Like there's somebody who was alive to see Washington or be alive at the same time as Washington was also alive like 10 years ago or something like that. I vaguely remember. I think it was Zachary Taylor.
Maybe it's Zachary Taylor. This is, yeah.
Never heard of him, to be honest.
This is something else. But he basically... No, it was John Tyler. Okay, why was it giving me someone else? But yeah, so he married late and had kids late. And then one of his sons had sons late. And so he still has grandparents alive. He was in the War of 1812, which, you know, Lambert, was the last time we fought y'all.
Yeah, we burned down the White House.
Yeah. Which is why it's called the White House now. It was brick, and then we painted over the scorch marks. He was the 10th president. He still has grandchildren alive now. Yeah. He wasn't a very memorable president. 41 to 45.
But yeah, that's basically where I'm at with Vicky. It's the state thing looks interesting, but I just don't know how they're going to do the pops.
Though we do have a teaser.
We do. That
For
teaser
tomorrow
is
about migration, which is something we were just sort of talking about.
Yeah.
So
Wait, rewind. Speaking of migrations, but yeah, we're gonna be able to see how migration works.
Mhm.
Not in this not in the teaser, of course, but we'll be able to see how migration works tomorrow. And we don't know what state this is, what country it is, but it's got way more migrants than it has growth,
Mhm.
and it's got 2.2 million people there. So it's probably the Americas more than likely, but who don't know. Because I mean, Brazil and Argentina also had quite a lot of migration during this period. So yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing the reasons for migration in Wiki 3. I also like that they've changed a couple of these icons, because the old icons were worse. Yeah, they were just a little bit worse.
Yep, and it's talking about New York here, which I've been out to Ellis Island, and it's actually...
Oh, it is New York. Okay, my apologies. I completely missed the fact that it was New York.
Which makes sense. New York had a good harbor to bring people in from Europe. I mean, if we pull up our handy Google Maps over here, if you're coming from the UK, or anywhere else in Europe, it's so much farther north that unless you want to go to Boston, New York's one of the best places to put in port.
I don't know. It looks like Newfoundland is like way better.
Well, I mean, if you want to go to freezing cold Canada, sure.
Yep.
Though a lot of people also went through Philadelphia. My ancestors went through Philadelphia. Which is not too far from New York. That's not a bad drive.
Clearly going through New Jersey is better.
No! North New Jersey?
I don't bloody know. All I know is that New York and New Jersey don't like each other. That's it. That's all I know.
Let's scroll through here. North New Jersey. Actually, this is actually not too bad. Hey, we found a station. No, a lot of New Jersey it was like swamp that they drained and they just filled with highways, and this actually isn't too bad either. There are some nicer looking places, but it's... no. It's not a pleasant place to drive. It's a lot of parking lots. North New Jersey, ew. South Jersey is very pretty. It's very beautiful down there. Because we're talking about New York. That's why.
No comment on that one, to be honest, from me. I regret bringing up New Jersey now.
I hate driving into New Jersey. To fly to PDXCon, I had to fly out of Newark, which is in New Jersey.
The actual shame of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy enough airport to get to, but driving through New Jersey, it's like taking your life in your hands on one of the ugliest roads you possibly can. It's like, I'm going to die today, this is not where I want to die.
I've driven on roads in rural Ireland. Their roads are probably worse. But anyway, speaking of segues, more CK stuff as well.
Yeah, let's go look at a beautiful court and all the events that we can get. Or new event types, I should say.
So what's new with CK, or what's with all these events then?
Oh, Comrades, the day is not at all late. Shut up. I do like how they did that. Yeah, we're getting new event types with the courts. And it's interesting because we actually do get to see in the court as they're happening and people are approaching you. What do you think of this, Lambert?
I still think that, I mean, it's probably going to be another one of those things where it looks kind of weird in screenshots, but if you look at it in motion, it's not going to be bad. Like, remember the earliest screenshots we saw of the characters looked really weird and kind of crap, but then in motion they look perfectly fine. I think this is going to be another one of those cases,
Yeah.
because if we've just got them standing like static
Well, you see
or
this guy, he's
just doing
like,
this, yeah, it's just I don't know. Hopefully, there's a little bit more movement going on. And it's just the screenshot was taken at kind of the wrong time. Um, and also, shadows need to be improved for the people because everyone looks so floaty.
yeah, there's no shadows behind, which, going off topic here, but if anyone who's a parent knows what Coco Melon is, if you watch the earlier versions of Coco Melon, it's even terrifying because there's no shadows. Because it was just a dad making them on his computer at home. And then when they got a lot of money, they started making them better. Like, they have shadows and stuff.
I don't understand. I don't understand how Cocomelon got so fucking big. I really don't. I don't get it.
Because it was free on YouTube and parents put it on, and then the songs are very peas, peas. You wanna eat your peas? Yes, yes, yes. I wanna eat peas. Cocomelon, COCOMELON. It's free.
Don't give them more
YouTube.
views. Don't give them more views. They've got enough. They got enough just from my kid.
But the early versions of that, it's like this right here. There's no shadows.
Yeah.
And so things just look really weird and kind of washed out in some ways, even when it's a darker environment.
Yeah, I mean, people just float, and it's like, it's got that uncanny valley thing going on. Where it's like, oh yeah, they look like the characters that we know, and it's fine, but like, they're not. They just look weird because they're floating.
Yeah, and as Pat Adams says, they're on Netflix now. The ones on Netflix have shadows. But yeah, these have reflections in the wood, as Rapid Boggling is pointing out. The floor, kind of. I have to say the darker one here looks better than the overly saturated king right here. He's got a spotlight on him. I didn't think lights were that bright and white in medieval Europe.
I think toning down the light quite a lot. I mean, if you think, where is the light coming from? You've got one window in the background,
and we've seen this
got
throne
shutters
room
over
before.
it.
This is the standard European throne room. It's just got stone walls on the sides.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a hearth, but that's white light. That's not yellow light. Like, yeah.
I'm sitting here with bright white sunlight lights. Like, this was not available back then.
Yeah. So everything needs to be darker, more yellow.
We do get to see some other courts down here, though. As the truck goes by again.
Yep.
I love that they took an image that shows the low FPS error to 16 with glitter.
Yeah. I bet that's worrying people.
Well, it's still a work in progress, so I'm withholding judgment. But this is in the Byzantine Empire. We get to see that there's mosaics, there's columns, there's wood and tile. Down here we have Asturias, which I'm glad to see that they didn't just give Spain like the stone castles, because they built different architecture there. And this is
and they inherited a lot of architecture from the Muslims that they kicked out. Well, it depends on when this is as well. 867. Okay, so not yet then.
And then down here we have Denmark. There we go. This is all wood? What is this? Down. 1066.
I mean, this is, Denmark in 1066, so they are Christian at this point.
Yes. And Denmark was always sort of more in regular Europe. Oh, that's for modding stuff. But I wish they would show us if we're getting a new Norse one. And this is England. Ooh, England is different. I wouldn't have thought this was England.
There's a lot of tiles. I mean, it's probably inherited from Romans,
That's
right?
true. Oh yeah, look at the cape.
They've got. I mean, they've got a real big problem with capes. The Danish one as well has got a big problem with the cape. Um, it's something we've seen quite frequently.
Like this one
So,
is weird.
yeah.
They need to like hire someone from EA for the clothing they do for The Sims. To just get flowing of movement. Though, in all fairness, EA takes some pretty bad shortcuts sometimes. There's a swimming suit that came out, and it's like one of those ones that's got like a scarf you tie around your hips with the big swimming suit bottom. And when you look closely at it, you see that the whole knot and then the two pieces dangling from the knot are just like flat into the skin.
As you do.
Yeah.
I mean, The Sims, you're generally not looking that close, though, right?
Sometimes you are. I mean, if you're in Create a Sim.
Fair enough.
Well,
Yeah, I think that's yeah. It's just the characters look a bit flat and not there. They look like a separate element that has just been placed there. They don't look like they're tied to the location that they're in.
yeah, it's like
which is my issue.
Like the old cartoons where you could always tell when when something was about to move because it was painted different than the background.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, siege elements on a painted background is you could you can just tell that they're not supposed to be there. So hopefully that gets changed. Hopefully we'll get some more shadows going on. The brightness should be dimmed a bit. I mean, having lighting effects where the light is moving, if it's like a fireplace or a candle or whatever, would hide a lot of the issues as well. Because when you're looking at CG characters, be it like when you're trying to do very photorealistic CG characters or deepfakes and such, if you have lighting effects going on at the same time, it hides the uncanny valleyness of it. And I think that could work here as well. I'm thinking like things like when they did Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars, they recreated him in CG because the actor had unfortunately passed away. When they did Princess Leia as well, it looked really fake. But if you add in some lighting effects, maybe some sparkly stuff or lights going off or a klaxon or whatever, just so that the light is always moving, it hides so much. And I think that is something they could do here, is just have flickering light from a fire would really help. I don't know how impactful that would be on frame rate or anything like that. I just think it'd make it look much better to the eye. Hopefully they're saving cosmetic issues for after the game mechanics are solid. Sure, I mean, this court thing is pure cosmetic, though, right? All of the mechanic stuff that you've got with Royal Court could be done without being able to see the court. This is cosmetics. This is pure cosmetics already. So, yeah. It could look better.
It could look better. And you would think that the people working on the graphics would be different than the people doing the mechanics.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the same thing when people shout at community ambassadors for not fixing the game because it's totally their fault, and you really want community ambassadors coding. It's the exact same thing, right? People who are doing graphic design don't generally do coding as well. And when you do have a coder doing the graphics, you get something that looks like Minecraft.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. We also have, if you've got anything else on CK?
We get to see what the court button is going to be on the side.
Oh yeah.
And I think it fits in pretty nicely there.
Yeah, it's not out of place.
And apologies for the rosebud in the background. He woke up. My sister went to go get him, and he's protesting the fact that he woke up. And doesn't want to get out of his crib, but he doesn't want to go back to sleep. I'm sure Lambert can relate. Oh yeah, we did get more of these down here. Like a few more. I guess, yeah, we've got more of a Muslim, Islamic courtroom. I guess it's African?
Indian one as well.
Yeah, not African, Indian.
The Almoravids. And, yeah, 2 Almoravids and then an Indian one at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Rosebud took over an hour to fall asleep last night. He just wanted to play. And then he got upset when I tried to leave the room. Oh yeah, I would love it if we got court for even just counts and dukes. Like maybe it was a much simpler design or something. Or it was just like the Great Hall.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a dedicated courtroom. But, you know, you can't have everything, which is so true of EU4.
Yeah, I want my pops. I want pops. Give me some pops.
Maybe EU5.
I'm never going to let that go. I'm always going to say the game's better with pops. I also, right, before we move on though, right, in this concentrate development part of the EU Dev Diary, they've put monarch points in inverted commas as if it's like the second paragraph above the link. It's like as if, you know, mana is now the official name and monarch points are the slang for it. It's so weird. But yeah, there's been a change to how you concentrate development. Instead of just taking an amount, I don't even know how much the amount is in vanilla. Instead of taking that and there being no waste, you now have 20% of the points are lost when you know. So if you're stealing 10 development from Beijing to bring to London, only 8 development will be added to London, which is, I mean, it's fine. It'd be better if there were pops involved, but I mean, sure, if you'd stuck with your bloody monarch points, then yeah, that works, I guess. And I think the interesting thing on that as well is the exact way that this mechanic is going to work was taken from a forum post comment, and they liked it, and so they basically used that design to make this new system, or is inspired by, rather than just a straight addition. But I think that's nice that they see good ideas and they're implementing them. So that's nice.
That is something.
There's also some random balance changes as well.
I mean, that's something that we can always say that's pretty good about the PDX devs is they do tend to listen.
Yeah.
Like they don't take everything that people suggest because honestly, 80 to 90% of the stuff that gets suggested is pretty much impossible or is only niche and would be better for a mod.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like various changes in Imperator are like I am directly responsible for.
Hashtag saveimperator.
Hashtag saveimperator. So yeah, I mean they're very, obviously depending on the team, but yeah, they're generally very good at responding to criticism and also to suggestions. Mm-hmm. That's why there's a suggestion forum there.
Yes, and as Dogberry is saying, they do listen and they do try, which is more effort than many others put into their games. Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah. For sure.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Yeah, so there's been change to the Catholic Curia powers as well. Bless Ruler gives 10% morale, as well as the thing that it used to give, which I don't actually recall. Indulgence for Sin gives more improved relations, and sending a Papal Legate also adds 10% cheaper annexation costs, which is nice. I think that one's going to be pretty useful. Just getting 10% more land. Hell yeah.
You know what? I just gotta say, I love this image. The fact that Florida owns New York.
Yeah, because it's all in the 13 colonies region.
Yeah, I know. And the fact it's Florida. It's just very funny. If anyone's ever driven around in New York, you notice about 10 to 20% of the license plates are not New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. They're Florida.
As you do.
Because all the people that move there after they retire, but still stay up here for a lot of time.
Yeah, there was an issue in the previous patches since the latest DLC came out where, because they made the Native Americans so much more prevalent, it was very rare to see the Europeans actually succeed in colonizing the New World, because there very often wasn't any space for them to get a foothold. But I mean, according to this image, that's no longer the case. It looks like maybe that little green dot in the middle of, Florida, Scotland.
No,
I'd
that
love to
little
see
dot right there, that's Lake Okeechobee, or not Okeechobee, yeah,
Oh, that's water?
that's water. There's a big lake in Florida.
I'm not talking about Florida. North of Scotland.
Oh,
North of the L in Scotland.
I thought you said Florida for some reason.
Yeah, because Florida's also in New York.
Oh yeah, right there. I wish I could
Yeah,
zoom in more.
that green country. That might be, I think that's the Iroquois color, right? I don't know. Anyway, it looks like there is very few natives left on the map. There's the Cree, and that's kind of it. So yeah, it looks like Europeans are going to be a lot more capable of doing the whole colonization thing, which is, it's nice to see. It's a bit more of a challenge if you want to play as the natives as well. More challenge is always better.
Pat is suggesting it could be Joara. I guess that's one.
Sure, just sure. I don't know.
I mean, things that neither of us know. We do have a Hoi 4 dev diary. We have no Father Loris.
There's a dog. There's a picture of the dog. That's what. Yep.
I mean, it's talking about Soviet exiles.
So this image here means that if you take whatever kind of dog that is, maybe a German Shepherd, and you cut it in half and have 50% go up and 50% down, you'll end up with two mini dogs.
Those are Yorkshire Terriers. So you're getting trading one giant German dog for two small English dogs.
Yorkshire, not Shire.
That's what they call the dog name in the States. Okay, I'm not referring it to...
That's wrong. That's so wrong, though. It's a Yorkshire Terrier. Anywho.
Well, okay, I usually just call him a Yorkie.
That works, too. That's also a chocolate bar.
And Yorkies were bred to go into holes and find rats. Yeah, please don't really cut your dogs in half. If you have a German Shepherd and you cut him in half, you will not find two Yorkies and you're going to jail. So,
yes.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Plus, you don't get the bag either. So, I mean, it's just a terrible idea. Things and such, and we should probably just skip all of the Hoi stuff and leave it for a double Hoi dose next week.
Hey, they added more focuses.
Yay, for who?
Realistically hard, unwinnable. So is it Poland? I don't know.
I don't know.
We need.
Oh no, that's the Soviets. That's the Soviets.
Is it the Soviets?
Yeah, we're gonna leave Hoi for next week.
Yes.
Father Loris will go over all of this next week, and so if you want your daily dose of World War II,
we're gonna be trading it for a daily dose of Rosebud.
Yeah. Hey, I like the portraits. The Archpatriarch and Tsar Vladimir, like those are some really, really cool pieces of artwork. But yeah, that's all. That's all.
Well, there we get the Tsar.
Yeah.
They really do the portraits very well in Hoi.
Yes, they really do.
Why do we have a Morse code message down here?
I don't know, but I'm gonna put it in Google Translate. It is... I'm still being held. They've rigged the door to some surströmning cans. It's suicide to force it open. Wow.
Okay. That's dark.
Go help our Heo.
He's
I've
like,
tried.
let me out. I want to save Imperator.
Please. I've tried surströmning, or the Finnish version of it. It's fucking nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Save him from that. Anywho,
That's
what have you been up to, Rose?
For Paradox. I have played some Stardew in the past week and never got to Stellaris because family things happened. But hey, it's still on the agenda. I still want to finish my great epic battle against the remnants of the Khan. Yes, Save Imperator is being replaced by Save Our Heo.
Why not both?
True. Why not both? But what have you been up to, Lambert?
I have been playing multiplayer Humankind every Friday, multiplayer Imperator every Thursday. I do D&D every Monday. A lot of stuff going on. I would like to start doing multiplayer Stellaris again, and if you're interested in that, maybe head on over to my Discord and have a look for the Stellaris role, because I want to start doing some multiplayer Stellaris, and because I had a lot of fun with the Steam event that I took part in.
Oh yeah,
it really got me back into Stellaris, and I'm like, yes, it's time to do some more of that. So maybe if you're interested in that, that'd be cool. But yeah, I've also, on the topic of Humankind, I have done a tier list of all of the cultures in the game, and only 2 episodes are out right now because I'm doing an era per episode. So I've rated the ancient and I've rated the classical eras. And obviously, because I'm doing it, then my decisions are final and objectively correct. But yeah, if you want to know how to play Humankind and who you should choose, maybe you should check those videos out as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's your ancient list. If anyone's interested in chat, and I'm sure it will direct you to classical. But I think that's all, folks. It's a shorter episode. We don't have tangents so much, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Hoi just takes up such a long amount of time.
That's true.
And yeah, it's going to take even longer next week because there's 2 dev diaries to go over.
Yeah.
Hashtag save Loris as well.
So have a good one, folks.
Bye-bye.
Rose, I'm floating. Oh, I see that. It moved. This is what happens when I jury rig a setup in 10 minutes because, I need to
get myself a green screen.
You do. I mean, I just painted the wall behind me green.
Yeah, well, I've got like a door there,
yeah,
and I don't like closing the door because I don't have enough.
Only
chair
the,
here,
the door green and the trim green. I painted the outlet green, but it's a terrible one that we'll replace at some point next time we have an electrician out.
I'm probably going to take the door off its hinges, to be honest. Anyway, Loris isn't here, so we're not going to talk about DIY. Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.